You already know you need test method validation. So I will skip the part where I convince you. The question on your desk is a different one. Do we do this ourselves or do we bring someone in? That is the question. I have watched both routes play out across hundreds of TMV projects. And here's the thing. The route that looks free is usually the one that quietly gets expensive. In the next 5 minutes, I will show you what doing it yourself really costs. And I will show you the 3 ways we get TMV done at SIFo, so you can pick the right one before you burn a single lab day. Hi, I'm Simon from SIFo Medical. I'm a MedTech quality consultant, ISO 13485 lead auditor and trainer at TÜV Academy. My team has implemented TMV projects for MedTech companies of all sizes. Everything from startups to names like Fresenius Kabi and Livanova. One quick filter before we start. If you have already done a TMV or you're right in the middle of one, do yourself a favor. Watch for free on-demand webinar on the 7 deadly sins of test method validation. It's linked below. You can check your own validation against mistakes we have seen far too often. This video is for you if TMV is on your project plan and you need to decide in-house or external. On paper, the in-house route looks perfect. No external costs, your engineers build competence, full control. So how does it actually play out in most companies? TMV lands on top of somebody's day job. They pull up the standard and within a day, they hit the questions that have no obvious answers. Which validation approach fits an attribute test? What acceptance criteria can we defend? And the classic, how many samples? And how do you justify them? You want to make sure you can answer the last one, because a sample size without a rationale is exactly the kind of thing auditors write findings about. So the project stalls. Weeks pass, and here's the part nobody budgets for. The real cost of DIY isn't the hours. It's running the study, getting a finding, and then running everything again. This time with a deadline of your notified body set for you. This is something we see far too often. One manufacturer contacted us right after an audit finding. Missing test method validation, a direct gap against ISO 13485 and FDA 21 CFR 820. At that point, we will figure it out internally was off the table. The follow-up audit date wasn't. Now, most teams don't choose between full DIY and full outsourcing. They reach for a shortcut. 3 of them come up in almost every first call, and none of them survives an audit. Shortcut number 1. We have run this test for years. That is our validation. It isn't. Testing is not validation. We want to make this clear. Testing is not validation. Running a test for years gives you data. It doesn't prove the test method actually finds the defect it's supposed to find. And auditors know that pattern very well. Shortcut number 2. The downloaded template. A template without the logic behind it produces a document, not evidence. When the auditor asks, why gauge R&R? Why these acceptance limits? And why 10 parts and 3 operators? Then it came with the template is not an answer you want to give. Shortcut number 3. The software will handle the statistics. Well, the software calculates. It doesn't decide whether your study design proves the method is fit for its intended purpose. That decision is the validation, and that's exactly where files fall apart. Good. So how do we solve this at SIFo Medical? There are 3 ways depending on where you stand. First, your methods are standard packaging tests. Be it seal strength, be it dye penetration, be it visual inspection. Then you probably don't need a consultant sitting next to you. Our TMV guides give you the validated protocol structure, the checklists, and the step-by-step videos for exactly those ASTM methods. You will find your data, the logic, and the wording already done. PFM Medical used our guides when their notified body demanded TMV evidence under ISO 11607. Their validation engineering manager reported that he could complete the entire validation in a quarter of the usual time. Second, you want this competence in-house, permanently. Then take our TMV Online Training. 6 modules, about 2.5 hours. We give you the entire foundation, from the regulatory framework through study design and gauge R&R, all the way to lifecycle management. Your team learns the process I have refined across hundreds of TMV projects. And after the training, they can run test method validations themselves, no matter whether it's attribute or variable, destructive or non-destructive. Third, the clock is against you, or your method is anything but standard. Then we do it with you. Remember the manufacturer with the audit finding? Together, the full TMV package was completed within days, and the deviation was closed for good. Not because we are magicians, but because we have answered every one of these auditor questions before. And at the end of the day, that's the real difference. You are not buying documents. you are buying a second pair of eyes that already knows what your auditors will ask before he asks it. When a TMV struggles with sample sizes, the root cause usually sits one level deeper. There is no solid risk analysis to derive them from. Sample sizes tie back into risk management, always. Without risk data, your sample size justification is guesswork. I saw that pattern so often that we built a tool for it, SIFo IRA. It generates a structured first draft of an ISO 14971 risk analysis in a matter of hours, instead of the 40 to 150 hours a manual one typically takes. So if your risk file is thin, we fix that first. And then the test method validation suddenly gets much easier. That's all. Just know it exists. The link is below. So, in-house or external? Here's my honest answer, even if it costs me a project. If your methods are standard and no deadline is breathing down your neck, take the guides and the training. Your team can do this. But if there's an audit finding on the table, a launch date, or a method nobody has validated before, get support, because round 2 is always more expensive than round 1. Here is what I want you to do. Book an initial consultation with me. It's the first link in the description. The call is free. We will look at your test methods, your timeline, and your risk file, and I will tell you straight which of the 3 paths fits your situation. Bring your trickiest test method. That's the one worth talking about. And if you're not ready to talk yet, watch the 7 critical TMV mistakes next, so your round 1 doesn't turn into a round 2.